They told us she was getting better. They showed us laughter, milestones, and transformation. But behind those smiling clips, the truth was rotting, literally. Tammy Slaton's body was failing her, and TLC didn't want anyone to know. For years, millions tuned in to 1,000 Delby sisters to watch her fight for her life. The surgeries, the setbacks, the moments of raw pain and triumph. But what the cameras didn't show was that the fight wasn't just about weight anymore. It was about survival against her body, her network, and the lies that would almost bury her story forever. The promise of a new beginning after years of pain, addiction, and hospital stays. Tammy had finally reached the point everyone thought would mark her rebirth. She'd qualified for skin removal surgery, the ultimate reward for her discipline and weight loss success. This was supposed to be her freedom, her new life, her moment. But according to people close to her, the surgery would mark the beginning of a nightmare that not even she or TLC could have imagined. Unlike her earlier procedures, this one wasn't filmed. Tammy insisted on privacy. No cameras, no producers, no lights. Just her and her doctors. For once, she wanted to heal without the world watching. But just days later, something went horribly wrong. The smell no one could forget. One nurse who worked post-surgery recalled something chilling. She said it didn't feel right. The nurse whispered, there was a smell, a deep, rotten smell that you never forget. Doctors quickly realized the incisions weren't healing properly. The skin around the surgical area had started turning black. Signs of necrosis. It's a terrifying medical condition where the tissue begins to die and rot from the inside out. What should have been a routine recovery turned into a nightmare of infection, emergency interventions, and unbearable pain. Every few days, doctors had to remove decaying flesh to stop the rot from spreading. Tammy screamed through it. She begged for it to end, and none of it, not 1 second, was shown to the public. The diagnosis that changed everything just when she thought things couldn't get worse. Doctors delivered devastating news. The tissue they'd removed wasn't just infected, it contained early signs of cancer. It's unclear whether it had been growing quietly for years or triggered by her infections. But one thing was certain, it was spreading fast. Tammy wasn't just fighting an infection. She was fighting for her life. The betrayal when Tammy told TLC she needed to step back from filming, the reaction was far from supportive. Sources close to production claimed executives were furious. They warned that halting production would delay or even derail season 8 of 1,000 Delby Sisters. Contracts had been signed, schedules were set, and TLC allegedly wanted her back no matter what condition she was in. They told her the fans were waiting, said one insider. They told her this was part of her story. But Tammy said she wouldn't let cameras film her dying. That's when the threats began. Financial penalties, contract reminders, hints that legal trouble could follow if she didn't return. Tammy, already broken and in pain, felt crushed. After years of giving her entire life, her tears, her trauma, her transformation, she realized she wasn't a person to them anymore. She was a product. She told me, I'm not a circus act, said a close friend. She'd rather walk away than let the world watch her fall apart. The silence as Tammy's health worsened. She completely withdrew from the public eye. No posts, no live streams, no updates. Her sister Amy tried to protect her, reportedly clashing with TLC producers who kept pushing for content. Amy allegedly told them, my sister's not your storyline anymore. But silence is bad for business, and TLC knew it. Instead of showing Tammy's fight for survival, the network began quietly shifting the show's focus. They cut footage, rewrote narratives. Episodes that might have shown the truth of her suffering were replaced with lighter moments, harmless jokes, family dinners, and upbeat recovery stories that didn't exist. To viewers, it looked like Tammy was just taking a break. In reality, she was fighting for her life in a hospital bed, barely conscious, covered in bandages and praying the pain would stop. The hidden war inside that hospital, Tammy's battle raged on. The infections wouldn't stop. The wounds refused to heal, and her immune system was breaking down. Doctors said chemotherapy had to wait. Her body was too fragile to survive it. For months, she was trapped in limbo, too sick to treat, too weak to fight. And while she lay there, hooked up to tubes, TLC allegedly turned away. Her paycheck slowed. Her medical bills piled up. Her family begged the network for help and got silence. They used her story to make millions. One friend said, but when she needed them most, they disappeared. The family tried to start crowdfunding for her care, but TLC reportedly warned them not to share details publicly. They said it was for privacy, an insider claimed. But we all knew what it was really about: damage control. The leak that changed everything. Then came the leak. Sometime in late summer, a confidential hospital report began circulating among production assistants, family contacts, and eventually fan forums. It described the unthinkable. Patient exhibits aggressive dermal deterioration and requires advanced oncological evaluation. In simple words, her skin was rotting and the cancer was spreading faster than anyone expected. The report painted a horrific picture of her condition. Someone inside the hospital, disgusted by what they saw, allegedly decided the truth needed to come out. But before the story could reach the public, TLC's legal team moved in fast. Emails went out overnight. Warnings were sent to staff and editors. They said any mention of Tammy's health was a violation of her privacy and contracts. But according to insiders, this wasn't about privacy, it was about control. They weren't protecting her, one crew member revealed. They were protecting the brand. The rewrite of reality behind closed doors, the network allegedly began rewriting history. Editors were told to remove every mention of Tammy's hospital stays, every sign of her pain, every tear Amy shed over her sister's condition. They wanted to make it seem like she was just resting, said one post-production employee. But she wasn't resting. She was fighting to stay alive. Whole storylines disappeared. Episodes that had once focused on Tammy's resilience were cut to pieces or scrapped entirely. In their place, TLC built a new version of the Slaton story, one that was bright, lighthearted, and marketable. The breaking point by early autumn, Tammy was emotionally shattered. She was weak, exhausted, and heartbroken. She had given the network everything, her most vulnerable moments, her tears, her fear, and they had buried her truth. She said she wasn't scared of dying, said one person close to her. She was scared of being forgotten. Her words haunted everyone who heard them. For a woman who had fought so hard to live, being erased was the final cruelty. And then, something even worse surfaced. The photos, someone inside the hospital leaked photos from Tammy's recovery room. They were horrifying: her frail body, the bandages, the evidence of how severe the infections had become. The images appeared online briefly, and just as quickly, they vanished. Taken down, scrubbed, gone. TLC allegedly worked around the clock to contain the damage, reaching out to sites and issuing legal takedowns. But it was too late. The whispers had started. Fans began asking questions. Bloggers began connecting the dots. And suddenly, the private recovery story didn't add up anymore. The aftermath behind the scenes: Tammy's condition began to stabilize slowly, painfully. The infections started to subside. The cancer, while still dangerous, hadn't spread beyond the tissue removed. Doctors called it a fragile recovery. Tammy called it a second chance. But this time, she was different. She didn't trust the cameras. She didn't trust the producers. And she didn't trust the people who'd once promised to tell her story truthfully. She reportedly told her close circle, "If I make it through this, I'm telling the world everything. Every lie, every threat, every secret they buried." The quiet before the storm, and then silence again. For months, Tammy disappeared completely. No one knew where she was or what had happened. Fans feared the worst. But according to sources close to the family, she was recovering away from cameras, away from contracts, and away from the network that had once defined her life. It was her time to heal on her terms. The truth they couldn't hide forever. By the time whispers of her condition reached the public, TLC was already scrambling. They couldn't rewrite the truth forever. Fans noticed the inconsistencies, the missing footage, the sudden tonal shift in the show, And slowly, the real story started to leak out through nurses, crew members, and people who'd seen what really happened. The truth was ugly, but it was real. Tammy had faced something few could survive: rotting flesh, spreading cancer, and the crushing weight of corporate betrayal. And somehow, she was still standing. Closing her fight isn't over today. Tammy's story is no longer just about weight loss. It's about resilience. It's about a woman who gave her pain to the world and then had to fight that same world for her own truth. The lights, the cameras, the laughter. They couldn't hide the suffering forever. Because behind every edit, behind every smile, and behind every so-called happy ending, there was Tammy fighting for her life. And this time, Tammy fighting for her life. And this time...
Hey, bitch.
Hey. You wrong.
Bonnie and Jacob wanted...
Narrator VO, what if everything you saw on TV was only half the truth? Behind every episode, behind every laugh and every tear, there's a side the cameras never show, a side even TLC tried to hide. This is the untold story of Tammy Slaton. A story about pain, survival, and the price of being a reality TV star whose real life became entertainment for millions. Scene 1, the beginning. It started in 2020. A new reality show, 1000 Delby Sisters. It's promised raw honesty, family love, and transformation. Two sisters, Tammy and Amy Slaton from Kentucky, opened their lives to the world. At first it was simple. Their journey to lose weight, to find happiness, to live. But as the show gained popularity, the cameras stayed longer. The producers pushed harder, and the sisters' lives slowly turned into storylines. Tammy wasn't just a person anymore. She was the character. It's the one who struggled. The one who made people gasp, laugh, or cry. Behind that tough, fiery personality, there was someone breaking. Scene 2. The pressure builds as each season aired. Tammy became the headline. Viewers talked about her weight, her attitude, her relationships. Everything was public. She couldn't escape it, even at home. And with fame came pressure. Pressure to perform, to be dramatic, to make the show work. Former crew members have whispered that producers sometimes encouraged tension. They needed conflict. They needed ratings. And Tammy, exhausted, isolated, and constantly judged, gave them exactly what they wanted. But the cost: her health, her peace, her freedom. Scene 3. Behind the cameras off-screen, things were far from glamorous. Friends close to the Slaton family said filming often continued late into the night. Tammy's mental health took a hit. Every argument, every breakdown became content. Imagine being at your lowest, and instead of help, a camera is in your face. One insider revealed sometimes she didn't want to film, but they'd call it a contract day. She didn't have a choice. Her health continued to decline. By the time cameras rolled for later seasons, Tammy was barely holding on physically and emotionally. But TLC needed her story to continue. Viewers were hooked. They called it reality TV. But what Tammy was living didn't feel real anymore. Scene for the hospitalization, then came the moment no one saw coming. Tammy's health took a dangerous turn. She was rushed to the hospital, fighting to breathe, fighting to live. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't planned, it was terrifyingly real. Doctors placed her on life support. For a while, even her family didn't know if she'd make it. Yet even in that critical moment, rumors say TLC wanted to capture it. A life or death scene, the kind of moment that keeps viewers glued to their screens. Some called it unethical, others called it television. But Tammy just wanted to survive. Scene 5, the recovery after weeks in the hospital. Something changed. Tammy woke up alive, but different. Her voice was softer, her eyes quieter. She realized she had been living for cameras, not for herself. Slowly, she began to take back control, starting with her health, then her peace, and eventually, her story. Fans noticed the change. She smiled more. She spoke differently. She seemed free. But the show still needed its drama. And that's when, according to insiders, the cracks began to show between Tammy and TLC. Scene 6. The silence after her recovery, rumors started to swirl. Why wasn't Tammy appearing as much? Why were certain scenes cut or reshot? Why did TLC seem distant? It's said that Tammy began pushing back, questioning contracts, demanding control over what was shown. She didn't want her trauma used for views anymore, and that apparently didn't sit well with the network. Suddenly, public appearances slowed. Certain statements were deleted, and the silence began. To this day, TLC has never fully addressed what really happened behind the scenes. Scene 7. The truth unfolds. Tammy has hinted carefully that not everything fans saw was true. She's spoken about being edited unfairly, about scenes that twisted reality, about the pain that the world laughed at. It's heartbreaking when you realize how many of her lowest moments were turned into memes, into jokes, into viral clips. The internet can be cruel, but what makes it worse is when that cruelty is packaged, edited, and sold as entertainment. Tammy wasn't just surviving obesity, she was surviving fame. Scene 8. The turning point then came the day she decided to live for herself. She left the rehab center, healthier and stronger. She began sharing her own updates on her terms, not TLC's. Fans saw her walking, smiling, glowing. For the first time, Tammy was writing her own story. But even as she rebuilt her life, the shadows of the past followed. Old producers, old contracts, old clips, reminders of a time she couldn't control her own image. That's when she made the hardest decision of all, to step back. Scene 9. The hidden costs of reality TV. Tammy's story isn't just hers. It's the story of countless reality stars who gave everything, their pain, their families, their dignity, for a show. Reality TV promises fame. But behind that fame are contracts that bind, edit rooms that twist, and producers who decide what version of you the world sees. And when the cameras stop rolling, you're left to live with the fallout. Tammy Slaton became a symbol of survival, not because of the show, but in spite of it. Scene 10. The woman behind the fame today. Tammy is more than a headline. She's proof that even after the world laughs at your pain, you can still rise. She's faced hate, humiliation, and heartbreak. Yet here she is, still standing. And though TLC may never admit what really went on behind the scenes, the truth is out there in the way Tammy carries herself, in her strength, in her silence, because silence speaks volumes. Outro, slow piano returns, fading to black narrator VO. So next time you watch a reality show, remember, what you see is only part of the picture. Behind every episode, there's a life, real, fragile, human. And behind Tammy Slaton's story, there's not just tragedy. There's triumph, the kind no camera can ever fully capture. Beat This was the untold truth. Reality weighs in.
Oops. What's the weight limit?
This table will hold up 500 pounds.
Okay. You're way under that.
Narrator.com reflective tone when 1000 Delby Sisters first hit our screens. Few could have imagined the emotional roller coaster that lay ahead. 2 sisters, 1 mission, a promise to change their lives forever. But what began as a journey of hope has now become one of the most complicated, dramatic, and heartbreaking stories reality TV has ever told. Act 1, the transformation that shocked everyone. Music swells. Cut to photos of Tammy's dramatic weight loss. Tammy Slaton has done what almost no one believed she could. After years of battling food addiction, health scares, and public scrutiny, she defied every odds stacked against her. Season 7 of 1000 LB Sisters ended with Tammy looking healthier, happier, and more confident than ever before. But her transformation didn't just stop there. She's outdone even her own progress. At Amy and Brian's wedding, Tammy looked unrecognizable. Wearing a striped turtleneck and dark jeans, she posed with the bride, radiating a confidence fans had never seen before. Her appearance sent shockwaves through social media. People couldn't believe it was the same Tammy who once struggled to stand on her own. Tammy has reportedly lost over 500 pounds since the show began, a number that still sounds unreal to fans who followed her since day one. After years of feeling trapped inside her body, she's finally living proof that determination can conquer even the darkest moments. The skin removal surgery she underwent was brutal, but it gave her something priceless: peace with herself. And now TLC is gearing up for season 8, promising to show Tammy's most dramatic comeback yet. But behind the smiles and celebration, something darker is brewing. Act 2, the fame that broke her. Somber music builds, cut to clips of Tammy's arguments, hospital visits, and rehab moments as the cameras kept rolling. Something inside Tammy started to change. Fans began noticing that while her body had transformed, her attitude hadn't. Even after losing hundreds of pounds, Tammy seemed angry, negative, short-tempered, frustrated at everyone and everything. "I can't keep watching," one longtime viewer wrote online. "She's lost weight, but she's still the same mean, bitter Tammy we saw in season 1. Tammy's behavior became harder to defend. Her words were sharp, her patience thin. She lashed out at her family, even those who'd stood by her during her worst days. And when she started vaping again, fans were furious. Doctors had warned her repeatedly, no smoking, no vaping, no risks. But Tammy brushed it off, saying it helped her anxiety. Some called it addiction. Others called it self-sabotage. Tammy's struggle wasn't just physical anymore, it was deeply emotional. Her biggest battle had shifted from her weight to her mind. Act 3, the emotional cracks. Low, tense strings fade in. Close-ups of Tammy crying in confessionals through all her surgeries. Recoveries and heartbreaks. Tammy rarely spoke about her mental health. But those who watched closely could see the cracks forming. Years of ridicule had left scars no surgery could heal. The public labeled her everything from lazy to hopeless. But no one saw the pressure she lived under. The cameras, the contracts, the endless judgment. Her relationship with her sister Amy became more strained with every episode. Amy, who once weighed nearly as much as Tammy, had already reached her goal weight. She'd started a family, had kids, and begun living the life she'd always dreamed of. And Tammy couldn't help but feel left behind. The jealousy was subtle but real. When Amy talked about her success, Tammy's tone changed. Her voice would tighten. Her smile wouldn't reach her eyes. "She's envious," one fan commented. "She doesn't realize Amy went through her own hell to get here." And that's the heartbreaking truth. Both sisters had their battles. But somewhere along the way, Tammy's resentment began to cloud her recovery. Act 4, the haunted rift, mysterious echoing music, camera pans to dark imagery. A haunted house, foggy Kentucky woods. Then came the breaking point, Amy's wedding. After a whirlwind romance, Tammy Slaton got engaged to Brian Levern, a man who shared her love for all things spooky. Their proposal. Inside a haunted house in Kentucky, complete with skeleton rings and matching tattoos that read "Scary Love." It was strange, quirky, and perfectly Amy. But Tammy wasn't having it. When Amy revealed that she wanted the wedding inside a haunted asylum, Tammy's reaction was instant and furious. "I'm not going," she said flatly. "There are demons there. You're out of your mind." Amy laughed it off, thinking her sister was joking. But Tammy wasn't. She believed that the asylum was filled with dark energy, spirits that could attach themselves to her. She begged Amy to change the venue, to pick somewhere safer, somewhere normal. But Amy refused. For her, this was a dream wedding, something she'd waited her whole life for. She wanted her sister there. She wanted her family united, but instead she got heartbreak. When Tammy officially uninvited herself, Amy broke down in tears. In one of the most emotional moments of the season, Amy sobbed. "The sister I used to have died the day you said you wouldn't come." It was raw, real, painful. And for fans, it was a turning point. A glimpse into how fame, fear, and faith had fractured a bond once unbreakable. Act 5. Fans divided, fast-paced montage of TikToks, tweets, fan reactions. The internet exploded. Some fans supported Tammy's beliefs, saying she had every right to protect her peace. Others accused her of being selfish and controlling. The divide between Team Tammy and Team Amy grew wider than ever. Meanwhile, Tammy's personal struggles continued. She still refused to quit vaping. She clashed with producers. And she seemed more defensive with every passing day. TLC fans had seen it before, the cycle of hope, progress, and collapse. But this time, things felt different. Tammy's body was healthier than ever, yet her mind was still trapped in the same darkness that had nearly destroyed her years ago. Act 6. The hidden struggle slow, emotional piano returns, cut. To Tammy in rehab, quiet moments alone in therapy sessions shown on 1000 Delby Sisters. Tammy opened up just a little, enough to reveal her pain, but never enough to heal it. She'd spent years feeling invisible, unwanted, and mocked by the very people who claimed to love her story. Even as her health improved, she couldn't shake the anger that came from being misunderstood. The truth is, Tammy's biggest battle was never her body. It was the trauma of loss, of loneliness, of feeling like the world was laughing at her instead of helping her. And when you carry that kind of pain for years, no amount of surgery can fix it. Experts online have said it best. Tammy doesn't need another diet. She needs emotional healing. But facing your demons is far harder than facing a scale. Act 7. Redemption or relapse. Hopeful yet tense music plays. Montage of Tammy smiling, walking, doing TikToks. Still, Tammy hasn't given up. Despite her emotional ups and downs, she's continued to fight for her health. Her weight loss is now one of the most dramatic transformations in TLC history. And while her attitude sometimes brings backlash, it's also what makes her real. She's not perfect. She's not polished, but she's human. And maybe, just maybe, that's why people can't stop watching. Because underneath the anger, the sarcasm, the mistakes, is a woman who refuses to stop trying. Act 8. The sister divides soft acoustic guitar split screen of Tammy and Amy. Tammy and Amy's relationship has become the emotional core of the show. Two women bound by blood, yet divided by fame. Amy wants peace, a family, a quiet life. Tammy wants redemption, recognition, and control over her own story. The tension between them is heartbreaking, but it's also relatable. Sisters fight. Sisters forgive. Sisters fall apart and find their way back. Fans can only hope that the two women who started this journey together can someday find common ground again. Act 9. What comes next? Music swells. Hopeful crescendo TLCs. 1000 Delby Sisters Season 8 promises to be the most emotional yet. Tammy's health is improving. Amy's family is growing. And both sisters are confronting the cost of fame in ways they never expected. But the real question isn't how much weight Tammy will lose next. It's whether she can find peace with herself. Will she let go of her past? Will she forgive Amy? And can she finally live a life that isn't defined by a number on a scale? Or the shadow of a TV contract? Act 10. The legacy slow fade out, quiet piano returns. Gentle close-up of Tammy, smiling faintly. Tammy Slaton's story is far from over. She's flawed. She's fierce. She's fallen, but she's still standing. Her journey has taught millions that change isn't a straight line. It's messy, painful, and full of setbacks. But it's also beautiful, because every small victory counts. As she prepares for her next chapter, one thing is certain. Tammy may have started as a reality TV star, but she's become something much bigger. A symbol of struggle, of strength, survival. And no matter what happens next, the world will be watching. Music fades out. Screen text appears. This is not the end of Tammy Slaton's story. It's just the beginning.